Live. Welcome back to Unfiltered, wherever you are watching. And of course, belated where most of you will be, Apple, Spotify, everywhere that you get your podcasts. It is episode number 293 officially. You can jump on board the Unfiltered Revolution 24/7, 365. It is easy. Of course, everywhere you get your pods. Also, go to Twitter, artist formerly known as X, if you will, at Casey Stern. Hop up into the bio. That'll take you towards the YouTube channel. Also, on Unfiltered, we're now on Instagram. You can get us at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. And, of course, where all of you are, with all of you get your better podcast, courtesy of the Believe Network, and presented by our good friends on Bet Online. I did an episode this morning, and I almost feel like I need to go back into the well and delve into all of the developments since in a saga that continues with everything that has gone on with Shohei Ohtani and Ippei Mizuhara, and this entire investigation has turned into more of a movie, and more of a movie where it seems clear, at least, who the villain and who the victim are, regardless of the fact that still, when I look at social media, I see Fall Guy, I see lies, I see how Major League Baseball has somehow hoodwinked the feds to get involved and save Ohtani for the state of Major League Baseball and all else. And at the beginning of this, I said the same thing I'll say now. I never thought that Ohtani gambled, and I never wanted him to be guilty, but you don't know, and you ask questions, and I still don't know exactly what happened. But I know this, that pre-investigation, Mizuhara seemed to change his story and say that he clearly had stolen and had done all the wrong that it seemed to play out Ohtani was describing in his press conference. Then the feds delved in. They got into the investigation, and 3 weeks later, which to Rob Manfred's credit, seemed to be as short as he thought it would be. I thought it would be longer. We know all of this, and this is not good. $40 million in debt, $16 million of theft, impersonation, lies, stealing, cheating, and illegalities up and down the wazoo, as they say, and worse than even that. I want to delve into what it all means and what happened today. Get your comments. If you want to chat along the way, you can live, or of course, you're listening Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts, or you're jumping in on YouTube or on Twitter afterwards. Give us a thought. Let us know where your take is on what has happened with Ohtani. We, as always, are presented by our good friends at Bet Online. Tell you about them, your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Latest odds, lines, and matchup reports, baseball, basketball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to get your wagers. Live casino and card games, they're all available right now, right from your phone. Head over to the website or your mobile device. Sign up today. Get in on all the action. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It is BetOnline where the game starts. As I get started here, what most recently as I do this came out, is that Ippei Mizuhara reportedly has agreed to surrender to federal authorities tomorrow. I'm doing this on a Thursday night. So that would be Friday. According to U.S. Attorney spokesman, currently scheduled to have a bond hearing tomorrow afternoon. That's Friday afternoon Pacific time. He will not enter a plea, and an arraignment will be likely scheduled tomorrow for a future date. So we know that Ohtani going to turn himself in, and we know that there's been a negotiation for a plea of guilt. But let's talk about how we got here. And part of this is just really hard to believe. And I don't mean hard to believe in terms of I don't know who's telling the truth. I mean, literally, it is seemingly nutso in terms of some of what the developments have been. And ugly as can be. I want to talk about first about what the U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada said. He said, quote, "I want to emphasize this point. Mr. Ohtani is considered a victim in this case." Estrada added that there was no evidence, says this article from ESPN, that Ohtani had any knowledge whatsoever of Mizuhara's gambling activities or use of his bank account to pay his debts. He said investigators combed through years of text messages between the two and found zero, not a zilch, nil, no discussion at all of gambling. Mr. Mizuhara used and abused that position of trust in order to plunder Mr. Ohtani's bank account to the tune of over $16 million, which we initially thought was $16 million, which begs one of the biggest questions clearly that people seem to have, and I admit that I have, and I have two that are prevailing that are still out there for me in my head, and that is, the one related to how do you not notice, no matter how much money you have, no matter how many millions it is. He didn't have $700 million in this deal that he just got with the Dodgers, all put into his bank account at once. $16 million lost, 500,000 at a time, and all that was depicted here by ESPN. How did you have all of that occur and not notice that this was out of your account? That is one of the bigger questions within, for sure. And I think it's one that is difficult to answer, no matter how much money you have. But one thing that came out among many here was the fact that Mizuhara had gone in and basically changed all the notifications and was in control of all of Ohtani's money. And I've seen people talk about the fact that, look, I don't think it's fair at all, the people who have sat there and said, well, he's either a fall guy, Mizuhara, or Ohtani is the dumbest human being alive, and I've seen all kinds of other stuff. I'm not going there, and that's ridiculous to say, but I do think it is fair to say that there may be some naivete, and I didn't mean for that to be Seuss-like in rhyme, in the Ohtani side here, because there is a lot that seems to be common sense-wise that went by the wayside to know that $16 million is disappearing from your account. But if the investigators went through this and the feds of, look, we're talking about the IRS, Homeland Security. This is not like, the hall monitor at school, okay? If they're going through this and a thorough investigation is all they do, this isn't Rob Manfred, okay? We're talking about the U.S. attorneys. We're talking about feds here. If they're going through all of this with this kind of money that is at stake and all the illegalities within and in play with the bank fraud and the theft and everything else that Mizuhara has done, there is no doubt they've done the due diligence. And if they've done it and said that Ohtani legitimately had no idea this money was getting stolen, then I'm buying into he had no idea the money was getting stolen. Text messages from the filing show that around November of 2023, the relationship between Mizuhara and the bookmaker changed. And some of these texts you should read. I'm not going to read them all, but you should go into the article if you have not seen them, talking about, Mizuhara texting, I'm really bad at this gambling stuff, LOL, and continuously asking for bumps. He was getting bumps and getting more money put in and betting higher dollar amounts. Now, why? And this is the second questions I have. The two questions I got bigger than any of all of this after all this has came out today, and you continue and file from this story now 3 weeks in. A lot of them have been answered, but a couple that are still remaining for me for sure. Number one is, how do you not realize that $16 million has been taken out of your account in these kind of large installments? How do you not notice? I don't care how much money you have. And people are saying, well, these billionaires, they don't know. First of all, you're not a billionaire. Second of all, you would notice if that much money came out of your account. These guys may not look at the ATM when they take things out, but you would figure, at least you would figure that you would notice. That's number one. And then number two is, how are you bankrolling this dude continuously the way that this bookmaker seems to be doing? And I don't understand that, to a level that he's doing it, to the amount of the bumped up finances that he's allowing bankroll without payback. But the text messages from the filing show that around November 2023, the relationship changes between Mizuhara and the bookmaker. On November 17th, the bookmaker texts, I don't know why you're not returning my calls. I'm here in Newport Beach, and I see Ohtani walking his dog. I'm just going to go up and talk to him and ask how I can get in touch with you. Since you're not responding, please call me back immediately. It says here, on March 24, after news broke that at least $4.5 million had been transmitted from Ohtani's account to Boyer's operation, that's the bookmaker, Mizuhara then texted the bookmaker asking whether or not he'd seen the media reports. The bookmaker responds, yes, but that's all bullshit. Obviously, you didn't steal from him. I understand it's a cover job, quote, I totally get it, it says in the text. Mizuhara then replies, quote, technically I did steal from him. It's all over for me. And now it clearly is. And the timeline that has been broken down in all of this by Paula Levine, and she does a fantastic job, it's crazy. It is crazy. Mizuhara met Boyer in a poker game in San Diego in 2021. According to the complaint, on September 8, 2021, the bookmaker Boyer provides Mizuhara an account number, a password, and a URL, and that's where it began. Mizuhara asking him that day, quote, "How does withdrawing and paying work?" Then in October 2021, Mizuhara is asking to play and figure out more of how to get the funds. Tells the bookmaker he's able to send $40,000, adding that it looks as if the method works, but I can only send $40,000 at a time. But these mount and this gets bumped up. He says, "F it, I lost it all. Can you bump me up to $50K?" In January, then in February, I made a transfer for I lost the other $100,000. Now, this is all, which is crazy, interpreting and working with the Dodgers and Ohtani with the Angels during the entirety of all this. It's nuts. Nuts. Over the 2 years, according to the complaint, Mizuhara averaged 25 bets per day, ranging from $10 to $160,000 per bet between December of 2021 and this January. Some 19,000 bets in all. His texts during that time show increasing desperation. And here's some of it. March 2022, Mizuhara texts Boyer asking him to reduce his credit, $300,000 to $100,000. He says he gets too reckless. Then in November of 2022, he says, "I'm terrible at this sports betting thing. Any chance you can bump me again?" May of 2023, he texts him, "I know you've been on a bad run." The bookmaker texts Mizuhara, "I don't mind bumping you, but I want to verify you could send at least $2 million on June 1st, to which Mizuhara texts back, "I got my ass kicked again. Any chance I can get another bump? My last one in a while." And then Boyer continues to try and get the money, and Mizuhara doesn't have the money. He's asking for more bumps in June of 2003. In the complaint, the investigator testified that wagers for Mizuhara's account reflected on the bookie spreadsheet total winning bets of $142 million, losing bets of $183 million. Negative balance total for Mizuhara during all this, $40.7 million. $40.7 million. So 2022, 2023, during that time period, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars being bet and not being paid back. June 2023, text Boyer, "It looks like I can only send $500K a week. I can put a wire in today. Should be your account by tomorrow. Does that work for you?" Then authorities raid Boyer's house in October. They seize the cash, the computer, and all of this starts. 2 days later, Mizuhara texts Boyer, "I'm going to be honest. I ended up losing a lot of money on crypto the last couple of years. Took a huge hit. Is there any way we could settle on an amount? I've lost way too much on the site already. Of course, I know it's my fault." And they go in to depict all the different ways that Mizuhara is skating out of being able to pay the money, not having the money, why he got bankrolled or how he got bankrolled for all of this money. I have no idea. But we're talking about a theft in the bank, according to the records and what they've done, and everything the feds looked at, that he stole upwards of $16 million from Ohtani. So here's Ohtani treating you like a confidant and a friend, and I don't give anybody my bank information. I mean, there are people who don't give their spouse's bank information, and he's got Ippei, that trusted, that confident, "You're my guy here in the States," forget just being the interpreter, that he given him all his bank creds. And here's Ippei Mizuhara going in and using all of that and basically forget about taking advantage of, pulverizing everything, that trust and that friendship and everything that Shohei has given him, and going and instead stealing upwards of $16+ million, taking it all from him, changing all the notifications, impersonating him in conversations, dealing with the bookie, and somehow getting this bankroll continued on and on and on, to the fact that he won $100-some-odd million, lost $183 million. You do the math. $300-some-odd million in gambling over a 2 or 3 year span. The fact that he then went through all of that with ESPN and is telling them for 2 to 3 days, or however long it was, maybe it was longer than that, all the conversations that he had, all the stuff that was depicted going back now 4 weeks ago, where he's talking about, "Hey, I had a gambling debt, and Ohtani's my friend," and he backed it up. Ohtani's got no idea any of this is happening. He's keeping him in the dark on that. Ohtani's certainly not sitting there watching, American television to go break it all down, or ESPN. So he's now playing middleman, and he's got Ohtani here in the corner like Baby and Dirty Dancing. He's got Ohtani's people on ice because Ohtani says that's the guy I trust. Just ask him. And he's sitting there playing middleman with ESPN, and he rolling this thing out like some kind of a movie where you just know the guy eventually going to run out of time, like a Catch Me If You Can, and get caught. And all of a sudden, eventually, he got caught. And now you got people who still, with all of this, now look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are parts of me that still want to know, how did Ohtani allow all of this to happen in terms of with his finances and not know anything? And I no matter how much money he has. But I'm not going to sit here and be stuck. What do I want to do? I want to have some conspiracy. What's the conspiracy? You think Major League Baseball can't even figure out how to get the jersey sizes of the names on the back correctly? You think they have convinced the feds in some conspiracy? You're a moron if that's what you think. Honestly. Now, people are like, well, here's Mizuhara, a fall guy for Ohtani. Look, when this initially happened, it looked like to me, based on the way things had played out, that maybe Ohtani had done him the favor. Maybe he had gone and paid the debts. Maybe then he realized in his camp realized he can get in some trouble. And maybe, Ippei was taking the fall from him because Ohtani could have his career ruined or whatever. Maybe. Yeah, it looked like it was possible. But you get feds involved and they do enough investigation. They're looking at thousands of texts and they got all these breakdowns. And you see the way Mizuhara is talking with this bookie, and he got guilt written all over him. He got gambling addiction written all over him. He got ass written all over him. A total jackass and a villain of unbelievable proportions. I mean, this is going to go down as one of the crazier stories that we've seen in sport. And the fact that Ohtani gets to come out, and it seems like he will, as clean as he says he was, and the fact that he was naive to all of it, victim is a fair word. And by the way, $4.5 million, and I understand how much money Ohtani is making and what he has. I get it. $4.5 million, a big number. $16 million, a gigantic number. A gigantic amount of theft, a victim for sure, a villain in Mizuhara, and a crazy, crazy saga that continues to develop from here. What do you believe? What do you think? What questions do you still have? Let us know. Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get podcasts. Of course, you can get me a number of ways. We are live on Instagram now at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. You also can get us on Twitter, or X, if you will, at Casey Stern. Jump up in and follow to the YouTube channel. All the conversations, all the guests, all the analysis of all 293 episodes deep in the can on Unfiltered. As always,